going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. So the guest posing of the year, the Pittsburgh Pro, just wrapped up. You had Hunter Labrada, Samson Dauda, Andrew Jacked, Nick Walker, Derek Lunsford. Moshe Bond showed up, but he didn't do the guest posing. And surprisingly, you also had Martin Fitzwater as far as the open bodybuilders go. But surprisingly, not only did Urs Kalsinski show up, but you had a special guest appearance from Ramon Dino. I was surprised that we didn't get to see Chris Bumstead hop up there and hit some poses. So let's talk about this guest posing for a second here. So the main standout to me, obviously a lot of people were looking at Nick Walker, a lot of people looking at Derek. He's your current Mr. Olympia. But I would say as far as like freak factor, the guy that drew my eyes the most as far as being an off-season guy was Andrew Jacked. I would say as far as... So I think the main standout here was Andrew Jacked as far as an off-season guy that just looked crazy. I mean, he clearly was like 320 pounds here. He looked ridiculous. And I think that's the interesting thing about the Pittsburgh Pros. With this guest posing, you get to see all these different top guys at different levels of where their physique is at as far as prepping for a show. You've got Nick Walker in this lineup 1 week out. You've got Martin 1 week out. You've got Andrew. We don't even know when he's competing. Derek, you know he's not competing till the Olympia. Samson, we don't know when he's competing. Probably not till the Olympia. He might jump in that Saudi Pro now that he's working with Oxygen Gym. And also Hunter, we don't know when he's competing. But I would say just like initial thoughts, the guy that drew my attention the most was Andrew Jacked. He looked like ridiculous here. And it could be a combination of his size and the fact that he's like 3 inches taller than most of the guys here and probably 2 inches taller than the next tallest guy, probably being Samson. Urs and Ramon, I thought Urs actually looked pretty big next to these open guys. So as far as that conversation as Urs potentially going to open, I think he actually looked pretty decent next to some of these guys. Now, I think what a lot of people are looking at here is Nick and Martin Fitzwater, because both of these guys are going to be competing next weekend in New York. And I'm going to be brutally honest with this commentary here. When I look at Nick and I look at Martin, when I saw Nick come out for his individuals and then when I saw him in the comparisons, honestly, it wasn't as good as what I expected to see. I thought we would see a much sharper version of Nick, especially considering how sharp Martin looked here. And again, Nick is 1 week out from competing, but frankly, I thought that Martin looked in significantly better shape than him. But granted, they still have a week, especially to dry out and get rid of the water. But Martin, to me, looked a lot tighter than Nick. Not, obviously Martin's not as big as Nick, but I thought comparable. But honestly, my real thoughts watching this was there's a chance that we see Nick get beaten at the New York Pro. And I will say, I know the midsection has been a constant point of criticism for Nick. And in this guest posing, I'll be completely honest, I thought the midsection didn't look great. Now, as far as the legs go, they looked all right. I didn't really notice the injury. I didn't really notice like a significant downsizing of the lower body. His legs didn't look bad, but his conditioning wasn't quite where I expected it to be. And again, you got to take that with a grain of salt because of the fact these guys still have a week to dry out, cut water, etc. But honestly, I expected Nick to look a lot sharper than he looked here. And as I've said before with Martin is extremely complete. He's a very complete bodybuilder. So while he might not be as big as Nick, he has very few weak points, and his conditioning here looks very good. And now I'm a little bit more hesitant, frankly, to say that Nick is the favorite to win New York. And that's my honest criticisms here. I think that Nick didn't really look as good as I expected him to. I thought the midsection it looked pretty blown out here. And again, grain of salt, he's got a week. But honestly, this isn't what I was expecting to see from Nick. And again, I think that Urs looked good next to these guys. I think that Andrew Jacked was kind of the standout for me. Hunter Labrada looked significantly bigger. We know that he's over 300 pounds now. Derek Lunsford looked good. Obviously, he's not going to be as lean as the other guys. He's not competing until the Olympia, so we know that. But the main thing that I was paying attention to while I was trying to look at everybody, I was getting a little bit distracted because Andrew Jacked looked so like ridiculously freaky. But looking at Nick and Martin, because they're competing next week, I thought Martin looked significantly better. And I'm curious to hear what you guys think in the comments down below. Who was the standout of this guest posing for you? And again, you got to kind of look at the fact that all of these guys, and that's what makes it so unique, is that all these guys are at such different points in their off seasons, different points in their preps. All their physiques are kind of in different stages of leanness and dryness. So this is a very unique comparison of the top level guys' physiques. But for me, I was mostly drawn to, like I said, Andrew Jack, because he's just so ridiculously big here and so much taller than the other guys. Paying attention to Nick and Martin, I was really happy to see Ramon join this guest posing. I would have really liked to see Chris Bumstead jump in here. Derek, I would say my comment about Derek would be his legs. His legs looked ridiculous to me, like in a good way, ridiculous. And again, that's something that Derek used to be criticized for, was the size of his legs. But as far as how he looked in this Pittsburgh Pro compared to the last one that we saw, Derek, I didn't think he looked as big as I expected him to based on some of the physique updates that we've gotten from Derek over the last couple of weeks. He looked bigger to me in those updates than he looked at this guest posing, so I didn't really notice that size with him standing next to these other bigger guys on stage. So I think the New York Pro next week is going to be very interesting. I think the Olympia is going to be interesting. Yeah, this is just a really cool comparison of these guys' physiques. And maybe as you watch this, I guess the other question to consider is of these guys, because most of these guys are top Olympians. So of this group of guys, who out of these guys looks like somebody that could potentially unseat Derek Lunsford as Mr. Olympia? I know that Hadi Chupin wasn't here. I know that Big Ramy wasn't here. So Derek is the only Mr. Olympia champion that we have on that stage. But as you get to see these different physiques that are in different stages of their prep, Derek probably being one of the guys that's the deepest into his offseason, I guess you would say. How do you think these guys compared to Derek? And of this grouping, who do you think was the closest to Derek as far as potentially being a new Mr. Olympia champion? Like I said, it would be nice to see Ramy in here. It would be nice to see Hadi in here, because Hadi is probably realistically he's the number one contender for the title right now. But of these guys, who do you guys think is the next most impressive guy besides Derek? Or maybe you guys don't even think that Derek is the most impressive guy. And if not, who is the most impressive guy in this lineup? What did you think of Nick? How do you think he's going to do at the New York Pro? Do you think this was better or worse than you expected as far as Nick looking 1 week out after the hamstring injury? Did this exceed your expectations, or did it underperform? Let me know in the comments below. That's going to wrap it up for the video. Like, comment, subscribe. And as always, I love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at NICKS&P, my Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power, my secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.